Hey everyone, Chris Lopez here. Welcome to our first Denver virtual happy hour. So what we're doing here, this is an idea that actually Terrance, Doyle, and I came up with a couple weeks ago when we sat down to do your 2020 investing guide interview. Derek Marlin came up. Somehow we started having a few drinks, had lots of fun, had good feedback. We said, hey, that'd be great because we get to network and talk real estate and drink. So, pretty good situation right there. And I mean, we're recording this during COVID and everyone knows life is a little boring right now. So we thought, hey, good way to actually do a virtual happy hour, network with people around town. And we're gonna do this on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We'll do it live. So if you guys can plug in, join us, have a drink. And also we're gonna take the audio and put in the podcast. That can be a great way to network. So every month or so, Terrance and I will co-host. We'll bring in a new guest just to kind of pick their brains, talk shop, talk COVID real estate, all that good stuff. So Terrance, who'd you snag for this first one?
Chris, I'm really excited about this guest. Brandon Gill is our guest. I met Brandon maybe over a year ago at a buddy's birthday party, and I'd actually heard your name from numerous people, and I just really loved your story, and I thought you were a hustler, and I loved how you were able to just do deals in all different spaces under real estate. You were doing land. I think you were doing flips. You're doing multifamily. I mean, you had a bunch of stuff going. Absolutely. And I was just immediately attracted to you. And so we've stayed in touch ever since. You've offered a lot of value to me and my business. Hopefully I've been able to do the same. So I was really excited to have you on. And I think the listeners are really going to love your story and kind of how you've been able to build a really successful business. So I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. And I also like the fact that when you think of virtual happy hour alcohol, that I'm the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah. That's on the LinkedIn profile, right?
Right. Yeah.
If you're looking to have a drink.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so one last guest we had on here, Joe Massey. I mentioned him earlier. We were hanging out, doing some stuff, and Joe, 10 minutes ago, we realized you told us that you and Brandon go way back.
You guys they were bragging. You guys were like, oh man, we got this great guest. We met this guy. You got to meet him. His name's Brandon Gill. I was like, meet him? Yeah. I was like, I've known him since middle school. Right. I was like, I've known him since a long time ago. So I'm just excited to be here and listening to, you and I've been here with the ride for you for a number of years.
Oh yeah,
man.
almost a decade plus.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So excited to hear the next evolution. What you been up to?
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you
Brandon,
so much.
Wait. Before we jump into there, I have my show notes. I got two notes on here.
Okay, we got to follow the outline.
Number one, this is important. We generally keep things pretty PG. We are drinking, so there's a really good chance it won't be PG. So if you got little kiddos like, wow, let's do in this room, maybe earmuffs them. Secondly, we got to cheers it.
Right.
So,
Cheers, guys.
Cheers to our first virtual happy hour. It's hard to reach. You're greater than 6 feet away. I can't reach you.
First annual.
Yes.
Hopefully you guys have me back every year.
We'll see. We'll see how this
Sounds
goes.
good.
Yeah. We'll see how we do on that bottle. Nice.
All right, you were asking a question, Terrance.
I was just going to say, when you came in here today, you started talking about your background, how you initially started. I think you said you met with like 15 to 20 brokerages, couldn't get a job. Why don't you give us the background, how you got into real estate? You actually know the founder of Your Castle pretty well, Lon Welsh. So give us the backdrop of how you started in real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much. So, pretty much my whole life, I've been kind of taking the underdog route. Nothing's really been easy, and I tend to do things the hard way. So, I was about 20 years old and I was studying for my real estate exam. Finally was able to get my license, but I just couldn't find the right brokerage fit.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty green, and I'd gotten in a little bit of trouble. And so I had a larger barrier to entry to get into the right brokerage. So long story short, it took me about 6 or 8 months, and I interviewed with probably 16 different real estate agencies, and either wasn't a good fit for me or wasn't a good fit for them. But I was pretty frustrated with where things went, and I knew that real estate was my passion and where I wanted to go in life. And it was frustrating that I just couldn't get my foot through the door. And even as a young man, 20 years old, you just want to really just take the world by the horns. So I sat down with Charles Roberts and Lon Welsh, and at this point, pretty much exhausted with sitting down with brokerages, and immediately we just connected. And I told them my story, and I told them about my ambitions, and they listened to me with an open ear, and I got hats off to them. I mean, they Lon and Charles just said, hey man, you're going to do great.
Wow.
You're going to do great. And they gave me that immediate validation and support and confidence that I needed to go out into the market and crush it. And so there we were. I found my home with your castle. We went to a recession. I mean, it was blood in the streets with the housing crisis.
So this is 2007 you started with them?
Roughly 2007. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. So 2007, and I mean the sky was falling. Everybody's like, get out of real estate. What are you doing in real estate? And it's like, well, this is when we go towards real estate. I thought the average prices of a home, looking in the MLS, I could go into any Denver market or submarket, I could find houses for 60 grand.
That's crazy.
And I just, that was my reference point for how much a single family was, is because I could see them everywhere. So I ended up, it was tough because my commissions, in the beginning, I mean, I would work 50 hours a week, and I was pulling in, I ended up closing, several deals in my first couple months, but it was hard.
Right.
And I mean, my first commission check was $500.
No way.
$500 to $1,000. I mean, I was averaging $1,000 commissions just because I was selling $30,000 houses and $50,000 houses, and so it was a little bit of a grind. And then within my first 12 months, I think I snowballed into about 16 deals and was just had a lot of momentum, working a lot with investors. So
was that your niche, was like just working with investors?
So what were they doing? Flipping or rentals, or what was you were selling to investors, and what were they doing?
My main focus was actually flippers.
Okay.
And so, and I always wanted to have that flip mentality. And so my goal was, okay, well, I'm 20 years old. I don't have any capital. Let me go ahead and start brokering out deals to investors, because I know how to deal source. And that's something that I learned from a really young age. And so I would deal source these guys properties, and they would go out and flip them. And then I would learn the process. So that's always been my thing, is like, okay, well, if I want to learn how to do this, I might as well be the middleman to get these deals to these guys, so that I can learn, okay, what's your inspection process like? Right. Okay, what do you need to buy it at? What do you anticipate selling it at? So I would learn the whole ins and outs by being able to sell them deals. And I've done that throughout several stages of my career, and even in the development world. So basically I said, okay, I'm going to be a broker so that I can learn how to be my own investor. Mm-hmm. And I successfully made that transition. I was a broker for about 7 years with these guys. I mean, just had a blast. I mean, the amount of information that I learned from the top down it's phenomenal. Right. I mean, there's things that I learned from Lon and Charles, and even the brokers that were within the company, I still do business with and still talk to, and I still carry those jewels and gems with me into today. So I mean, invaluable experience with your castle. So I said, hey, okay, I want to be an investor. So I went from broker to investor, and then once I was an investor, I did the same thing, and I said, okay, well, I want to find out how to develop. I want to learn how to develop, and I want to be around developers. And so the only way for me to do that was to deal source development deals to developers. And so I would do the same thing. I made the transition, and I would find properties that were ideal for development. And then I would build a network of developers and say, okay, here's an opportunity. What do you think about it? What do you need to buy it at? What are construction costs? What are zoning? What's the zoning, and how can you slice and dice this lot, and how can you maximize every single deal? And I would learn. And then once we'd get them under contract, we'd go through the inspection process. And it's like, okay, oh, you guys don't do anything like the residential guys do inspections. So it was like,
what was the differences?
So when you buy a single family property, you want to look at, you're going to hire a traditional home inspector. You're looking at the condition of the house. You want to know the mechanical, the roof, is there structural issues, all that stuff. And then you kind of negotiate based on that. When it comes to development, all that's out the window. The only thing that you're really concerned about on a development deal is your asbestos test, your soils test, and your survey. So and really the only physical aspect to that, to the house or to the structure, is the asbestos. Mm-hmm. So when you go into a property, you'll basically take a little, 1/4-inch size holes throughout certain suspect areas that might have asbestos, and then you get a bid to remediate them. But you need to have that asbestos test in hand and done, and all completed by the time you demo the property.
Right.
So
what was a typical development deal when you were doing that? When you were starting out and you wanted to learn development, were these guys building duplexes or 5-story buildings, or what was the typical
Yeah.
What was like your middle of the road development deal when you say development? Because I know people listening may think different things when they hear development.
Absolutely. So I did definitely start on the smaller scale. This was in 2013. I made that transition where we said, okay, we want to identify development lots here and we want to try to wholesale as many development lots as we can until we start to do it on our own. So 2013, we made that transition. In 2013-14, we really started to capitalize in the, Berkeley neighborhood.
Okay.
So right off of 38, so in the Highlands area.
Oh, yeah.
And Berkeley was just blowing up. I mean, there's a lot of TU zoning, which is 2-unit zoning. So we would find a lot of these houses in the mid 3s that, from a development standpoint are worth, high 3s and 4s. And so we would make that transition and we would just get a ton of single family houses.
So they're building duplexes on there.
Duplexes, yeah.
Duplexes and party wall and some off the sides.
Duplexes. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So are you wholesaling the deal? Or are you buying it down? Like what's your, can you walk through like your exact process on what you're doing there?
Yeah. Well, that was, back in the day. So we typically try to steer away from assignments. Basically, the way that we do it would be a double close. So I would go in and I would purchase it and then I would sell it to the buyer. So, I mean, that would be done within a day.
So time out here, explain the differences and nuances between assigning a contract and doing a double close.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you do an assignment, basically you are selling the rights to that contract. So you would do the contract and then you have to specifically state that this contract is assignable to another LLC or legal entity. And so when you have a buyer lined out, then you draft an assignment, which basically just hands over all the rights to that contract. And then the buyer's name is now replaced on the contract and it's 100% their contract. And then you collect a fee for doing so. And that fee is specified in the assignment. Then if you're doing a double close is you're purchasing the property from the seller and you purchase it at 10 a.m. and then you basically turn around and immediately resell that property to the end buyer. And whatever your spread is what you keep. So
and this is often like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., right? Like it's the same day often? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times we would do same day. Sometimes we would, sometimes we would buy it, and have to hold on to it for a week or so. As we matured and got a little bit more involved, then we would purchase them and then we would go through entitlement processes. So we can create a value add by getting an architect on board and say, okay, we're going to purchase it for this. And then we're going to get an architect and they're going to design. So say we purchase a single family house and you can put 10 townhomes there. So then we would hire an architect. The architect would do a site plan, put up, 10 units on that site. And then we would in turn get it partially entitled. And then we would flip that to a developer at a later date.
And that's worth more, right? Because you've done more groundwork and you have kind of a proof of concept.
Yeah.
So now to a developer, it's worth a little bit more.
Absolutely. Right. Worth a lot more. So yeah, the value add is, are you going to sell it just as is? You're going to sell the lot just as is, or are you going to sell it partially entitled, or you can sell it fully entitled, or you just buy it and then develop it and do the whole process on your own and then turn around, just full retail.
I love that. So 2013, that's where you're starting. You're starting to sell to developers that are doing duplexes and smaller multis.
Yeah.
And then walk us through the progression after that. Because you wanted to learn, because you wanted to develop.
Yeah.
Right. So you started finding deals they wanted to add value to them. So then they basically show you their business model.
Yeah, absolutely. So then I learned the ins and outs of development. Took a couple of years. The deals got bigger. We started moving from Berkeley. Then we went into Sloan's Lake. Sloan's Lake had a lot of bigger parcels. And so we would do the same thing over there. And I mean, basically the way that we would identify properties is we would look at the zoning map and say, okay, where is the market moving and where will the zoning allow for it to move? And so you can have an area that's hot, but if the zoning doesn't allow it, if it's a bunch of low density zoning, then you're not going. That's going to be a very slow go. Right. Yeah. It could take 10 years before you see the market really start to go gangbusters over there. But if you go into a market where there's high density zoning, then it's the path of least resistance, and you'll see development go into those areas significantly faster, and you'll start to see those property values jump up considerably. So that's basically what we did. Is we would just read markets, we would purchase properties, then we started acquiring rental properties in these areas that were on the up and coming, because we were kind of there before the storm.
Right. Like you were buying and holding them for
then
yourself?
We would buy them and hold them.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we started building a rental portfolio strictly of development deals, hoping that they would cash flow. I would say, majority of my rental properties do not cash flow if they'll break even. My goal is not to cash flow on these deals. And I know a lot of guys from multifamily standpoint, you want to, I want a 5 cap, 6 cap, 7 cap. I mean, you want to get a certain return. With mine, it's like, okay, I want to break even. How can I break even on this thing?
And that's just to hold it till you can sell it.
Oh, that's a great point right there. That's a phenomenal point, is that your box though. It's like your game, what you're good at. That you're basically can tell the next area to pop in a certain city. So in Denver, those of you listening around the country, these are areas that had a lot of growth in the last 10 years. So Sloan's Lake's really trendy, really up and coming. A lot of millennials want to live there, a lot of new construction. But you were in there really before it experienced that. So what Brandon's talking about here is that he knew what he was good at. You knew how to identify areas of a city that were about to explode. And you would just go in there and pick off certain lots and then hold them. And your goal was really just to break even.
100%.
So you could be more aggressive than an investor like myself that's like, man, I need a 10% spread or 12% spread. You're like, hey, if I just break even, what's that number? And I'll pay that.
Exactly.
Because you knew that in 5 years or 3 years down the road, you were going to sell 20 lots in that area and it was going to appreciate by 25%.
Boom,
right?
The appreciation. You're
the appreciation. Right. So that's phenomenal.
So I bank on appreciation. I know that that's a very high risk move from real estate standpoint.
But not if you're in what you're doing, because you kind of control it a little bit because you know what you're selling.
It's an educated risk. You're not gambling.
Yeah. I'm not just going into a market and I'm like, okay, well, it's going to go up. Everything's going to go up and it's just going to naturally float.
You're very specific.
6% every year. It's like, no. I'm purchasing a property that I know has amazing zoning, and that value is absolutely in the land, no matter what market I'm in.
Right.
There is always a demand for the land if you've got good zoning in whatever market. So just to give you an example, so right now I've got 3 single families that 2 of them, they're all right next to each other over by not too far from here, actually, Colorado and Evans area, basically. Denver Academy, the high school right there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we're right on the edge of that. And so we've got three it's about 20,000 square foot parcel. It's
so you guys assembled?
SMU 5. Yeah, we assembled it. And we're going to put 18 townhomes there.
Wow.
In the first quarter of 2021.
Nice.
And are you actually developing yourself?
Yeah,
okay,
we're
so you're moved into, you're developing stuff yourself.
So we've
now.
done development deals as well.
Okay.
And basically what we kind of got into from as opposed to just like being full on or just a developer, is we would kind of syndicate these transactions where we'd say, okay, we know how to find deals, we have capital, we're purchasing these things. How do we get into a place where we can leverage our time and still make the profits of a developer and while we're doing some development, but still stay on the deal sourcing side as well, because that's really where we make our bread and butter, is finding opportunities. Because when you have an opportunity, you can assemble a team around that opportunity. Right. A lot easier than just trying to assemble a team. So, for instance, on this 18 unit, we have a developer who's a partner, owner, who've done a ton of deals with. And then we have a architect who is one of the largest architects for townhome development in the city. I mean, this guy's probably done half of the development deals he's been the architect on. He's also the owner. So he's doing his part of it. And then me and my partner. And so we'll help develop it, but we also get the land at a really good price. We assemble it. Once we have a good basis on the land, we can start putting people in place to say, okay, let's be a partner on this. And you're going to be an architect. Okay, throw your services in. Okay, you're going to be a GC. Throw your services in.
Because they want that piece of land.
We'll bring you in at this basis.
Right.
We'll bring you in at this price. You do your services for free. We'll do our services for free.
I love it because then they're vested. Everyone's got skin in the game, and like the people get things done that way. Like that is, I love when you create opportunities like that. That's great.
Very smart.
Thank you.
The thing I like is you align interest, right? Is everyone wants the same thing, a profitable project. The architect wants to get it done as cheap as possible. The builder wants to get it as cheap as possible because they're aligned with the more profitable it is, the more money everyone makes. So that's a great strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, go ahead.
I was gonna ask. So I know you're buying a lot of these lots and houses, and you're underwriting it very differently than me, Joe, and Terrance will. what's your quick underwriting overview, and how do you finance them? Like, is this cash, doing construction loans, private money, line of credit?
Yeah. So as far as the underwriting goes, I mean, pretty much the inspection process is how I look at it. Or going through, purchasing the property and then looking at the zoning, you basically know what your construction costs are going to be and then what you can sell it for. So you would look at it from two different standpoints. Is the development going to be a for sale, or is it going to be a for rent? Because that's a different game. Typically, the way that we underwrite everything is looking at it from a for sale perspective. Okay, if we can get this to pencil out, we're going to do townhomes for sale. Then
you're talking about the build for sale versus the build out to rent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, I don't think I've ever seen anything different, honestly. But if you can build a product for sale, it pencils out for rent.
Right.
If you can get it, if you can get it to pencil out that way, it'll go the other way.
Right.
So, for instance, the 18 units that we're doing here, we were talking about selling them, and then we're like, well, wait a minute. The rental market is just so phenomenal right now. It doesn't seem like it's really going anywhere. And we can probably make another 10-15% premium on our value just by turning these into rentals.
Wow.
And so it's like, now we're on board with, okay, let's build these 18 and then keep them as rentals, as opposed to selling them and splitting them off individually. And selling and splitting them off individually is a ton of work.
Right.
There's a lot of brokering involved in that, and there's just a lot of
someone has to sit there and show those all day, and all the closings and everything. So walk me through this 18 unit. So you assembled 3 lots in a really good area of Denver. And what are the sizes of each unit going to be?
Roughly 1,400 square feet.
Wow, so that's pretty good size.
They're going
to 3 bed, 2 bath.
Or actually, you know what? Those are our bigger units. No, I'm sorry. They range from 11 to 1,400.
Okay.
Yeah, they are 1,100 square feet. They're all around like 2-2.
Oh, 2-2. Okay.
2-2s. Yeah.
With the ones that have the rooftop view, that kind of build.
We actually we didn't do. We're not doing a rooftop on these.
Okay.
Yeah, and
but a 3-story kind of type thing.
It is a 3-story, like parking on the first
bottom
floor,
right,
and then 2-3 stories above that. That's
cool.
Or 2 stories above that. That's going to be living.
Yeah. There's not a lot of rooftop decks over in that part of town, right? That's not.
Oh yeah.
There
is. There's a lot of rooftop decks over there. And we're actually. I mean, from a rental standpoint, the cost is more expensive to put a rooftop deck.
Right.
You don't really get that in return.
It's more of a sexy thing you probably get when you're selling them, I would think.
Yeah, exactly.
On the resale, the woman goes up there and she likes the view and she's like, "Oh, honey, let's buy this," type thing. But from a rental perspective,
dude, I like the views too.
You're not going to get that much more money. All right,
hey guys,
we all know who's going to pay a premium for rooftop. Everyone call Chris.
I use the same philosophy when it comes to buying a boat. I don't want to own the boat.
Right.
I'll be buddies with the guy that owns the boat, so you have got that money picked.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So we're going live here. So me, Terrance, Doyle, we have our special guests here, Brandon Gill and Joe Masters, well during happy hour. I know we got some people on Facebook Live. We got some people Instagram Live watching us. If you guys have questions, feel free to throw it in here. We're honestly drinking whiskey and just having a good chat about real estate. So hang out, but definitely throw your questions on here. We do check them every 10 minutes or so at this rate. So
perfect.
So what kind of projects? So you got that new townhome going on. What else is the bread and butter of your business right now? What are you seeing out there? Have you seen things change since COVID? Since March?
Yeah, honestly, so I would say 2013 started the business, and then deal flow from 2013 to 2017 was amazing. I mean, we had marketing set up, and we just had so many deals coming through the pipeline, and we were working so many things. We could say, okay, well, let's hold this, let's wholesale this, let's develop this. We would just do. We were very flexible because we had so many deals coming in. 2018, things started getting a little bit drier, and what
was that due?
I think a lot of that is because there's only so much land in Denver, and then there's so many people that we're developing, and so it's just like musical chairs. Like who's going to get a seat now? Who's going to get a property, and who's going to get a lot to develop that actually makes sense?
What was your marketing? Are you doing direct mails, networking,
so
general? What can you give us? Maybe the secret sauce.
This is one of his one of the things you do best, right? Is marketing. So I don't know how much he wants to divulge, but tell us what kind of marketing you've seen work best and.
Yeah.
A little bit of that.
Yeah. So, guys, I mean, honestly, the only way to communicate with people is either going to be through digital advertising, mailing, face-to-face, or voice-to-voice. Those are really the only ways that you're going to get in front of somebody. Yeah. And so I would encourage, if anybody's out there considering getting into real estate, to look at all 4 aspects and do all 4. Get in front of people. I mean, my marketing would be very niche, as in I would door knock a lot of these lots and owners of these lots. And I wouldn't necessarily just go out into a neighborhood and just start door knocking 100 houses. I would do a lot of my back end research at the office, and I would have a lot of maps. I have a lot of mapping software. And so I would do a lot of aerial searches, and then I would identify these lots. And then by the time I go out to that person, that property owner, I have an offer in hand. I have my price completely dialed in, and I know
like
exactly,
a physical printed offer.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
If I can't get a hold of them, I'll show up at their property with the offer in hand and say, "Hi, Mr. Seller. I've been trying to get a hold of you, and I haven't been able to reach you, but I just wanted to let you know I'm here to purchase your property at 123 Main Street. Here's my offer."
That would get attention, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
They'll open the door.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They'll, all of a sudden, they'll slide the chain over and be like, "I'm sorry, what did you say?"
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people interpreted it as intrusive at times, but I never had anybody that at the end of the conversation or at the end of us sitting down, they were like, "What? Hats off to you." Nobody's done that one.
Yeah, that's creative, and you've done your homework, man.
And you do your homework. Yeah. So, I mean, there's hours and hours of research done on a particular property before I ever show up.
Now, before you go door knock, are you doing like mailers and calls first, or is your first point of contact like a door knock?
Yeah. So we do telemarketing, we do calls, we also do mailers as well.
Okay. So you're doing the full.
We do everything.
Full marketing.
Yeah, we do everything. I don't do digital. And I'm looking at doing some digital right now. But as far as, it's interesting because in real estate, and this goes from investor to broker to anybody really in the real estate game, that you have to reinvent yourself every couple of years.
Right.
Whatever your
that's so
market,
true, dude. That's so true.
That's adapt or die.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's not even, I think on an annual basis, you go through these little micro shifts, but then every 4 or 5 years, you go through some macro shifts where you have to completely change the game on what you're doing and how you're doing it to get the same results,
right?
Or more results. And so, so basically, we came to this aha moment last year and through this year, through COVID, we've realized, you know what, we completely abandoned the single family model and market because we have been focused on development for these last 7 years, and also multifamily. And so it's but we know single family extremely well, we know multifamily extremely well, and we know land extremely well. So why would we abandon these other trades when we know them like the back of our hand? And so we have marketing set in place now where it's okay, we're going to go after single family, multifamily, and land deals, all of them. We're not just going to stay with land, and we're not just going to peruse multifamily. The way that we've been doing, we're just going to go hard in all 3 asset classes, and it's going to be around calling and mailing and door knocking. Obviously, door knocking not with COVID,
right?
But not too far away from doing some door knocking. I feel pretty comfortable with it. Whatever it is right now, October 1st, I feel like I feel comfortable enough in the market to get out there and start doing some door knocking again.
I love it.
Well, especially the thing is too, it'll be double-edged sword, but not too many people are door knocking. I've not had too many solar panel salesmen come through my door since COVID.
Oh yeah.
Or where they're selling. So that double-edged sword, but you're the only guy out there door knocking.
Yeah.
So we do have a question here. Oh, we got a couple questions. Can I throw them at you?
Please.
All right. So Laura says, this is referring back to your development townhome plays. Why only 3 stories? Denver seems so spread out with low buildings versus other cities, which takes up much more land. Why not build up if you have more capital? So that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a great question. So, in regards to the townhome space, it looks kind of funny if you're doing 3 stories.
8-story townhome.
Yeah. There is a
sublease to sublease.
Right. Yeah. When you're talking about townhomes, there is a sweet spot where you have to be at a price per square foot. And if you overbuild on that square footage, you're not going to achieve your price point. And the cost of construction in Denver right now, I'm not too sure, Laura, if you're from Denver, but cost of construction right now is $200 to $225. And so a foot, right, yeah, $225 a square foot. So you don't want to overbuild in an area where you're not going to get that kind of return. So really that 1,500 square feet is kind of the sweet spot. for where you can maximize your profit in return for your costs of construction. However, though, that's only in regards to townhomes, because apartment style building has been monstrous in Denver, and people absolutely go up higher density
and maximize the density, right? If you can park it, you can build it, right? That's kind of the
and you're absolutely right on that. If you can park it,
you can build it.
Yeah, you can build it.
What's the parking? Okay, let me build as many units that meet that parking.
Right. And I think one of the biggest struggles with higher density projects is in regards to parking is the underground aspect. If you have to go underground with parking, it's considerably more expensive for your development.
Oh, it costs a fortune.
Oh, it's so expensive. Yeah. And your returns just get pushed out that much longer. And so people really shy away from that. As opposed to even just doing 1 or 2 floors of parking and then going 3, 4, 5 stories of living. That's something that is very common. We've done some apartment deals as well. But the majority of our business has been aimed around townhome sites.
Okay. So can I throw another question at you?
Please.
Alex.
So Alex says, and Walker, if you see stuff on Instagram, do not be shy to interrupt us, please.
We got one on hold right now.
All right. Well, you're up next, man. So Alex says, are you expecting a crash with the eviction moratorium and so many tenants not paying rent that there are more investment properties that are going to hit the market?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's something that's been circulating throughout investment groups, I think, for the last 6 months. Really commonly, everybody's concerned about it. And I think everybody is more hopeful of a crash than a crash is realistic, in my personal opinion. There is definitely a moratorium with the evictions, and I think there will be a slight surge of people who are going to go through some pain for a couple of months. But from a landlord perspective, I think that landlords are still bullish in the rental market. And I think if they get rid of bad tenants that aren't paying, the amount of people that are in line to re-rent those properties won't put those landlords in distress. They still see a demand there. So there's been some great charts that have come out from York Castle as well in regards to just the national average equity position of a homeowner. The typical homeowner is dealing with about 15% equity right now. So if things get a little bit tough, then people will be able to sell, and it won't be necessarily a distress sale. So like waiting for an influx of foreclosures and short sales, I personally don't see it happening. I'm somewhat of a YouTube connoisseur though, and so I kind of get sucked into black holes of YouTube where it's like, you just listen to so many guys. There's guys that I like super look up to, right? And I'm just like, oh, why are you guys doing it? Oh, the crash is coming. Oh my God, the worst thing we've ever seen.
But those headlines get clicks. It's clickbait. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I quit clicking because I don't feel like it's validated at all anymore. And, when COVID was happening, it's like, okay, I think everybody is believing what's going on. And they're like, oh, wow, the sky is falling, and now we're getting through this. And it's like, oh, I don't see the market taking a crash like that. But I do think it's market specific. And I feel personally, Denver is very well insulated from the rest of the market because we have positive net migration. People are still coming here. Businesses are still coming here. Yep. And a lot of those are white collar businesses. Tech jobs. So we still have a lot of people that are coming here. We're not really industry based on, blue collar jobs. So that's a big reason why I feel Denver is going to be insulated from the rest of the market. And even I think September was one of our worst months nationally for rent collection, was at like 76%. And even that, I mean, I think would be about as bad as it's going to get. And that's not that bad. Then you have to factor in too people who are just not paying rent because of the moratorium. They can afford to. Those people, if they get evicted, they're going to go out and re-rent the place again as well. There's still a lot of jobs here, so I really don't think if you're trying to time the market for a crash, I think you'll be waiting on the sidelines. Honestly,
I agree. Wonderful. So we'll go around. Joe, I mean, quickly, is there going to be a crash in Denver? Yes, no. What are your thoughts?
No, absolutely not. Brandon hit the nail on the head. Rent collections have not gone down in a material number to lead to foreclosures. If they do go down, rent collections go down significantly, everyone has enough equity. There's not going to be foreclosures. You simply sell. You list it and sell. Right now, we have 1.1 months of inventory. All right. If we were to double tomorrow the number of homes on the market, we'd have about 2 to 2.5 months worth of inventory, that's still not enough to have enough homes for people to buy.
That's still a seller's market, right?
If we quadrupled it, we took the number of months of inventory and multiplied it by 4, got 4 times as many listings, we would get close to a balanced market, right? I assure you, any foreclosures that come down the road, any 1 or 2 pickup in sales is not going to be enough to make a material impact on this market.
Right. I agree. 100%. Joe.
Terrance,
100%.
is Denver crashing? Yes, no?
Yeah, I don't think multifamily or single family or townhomes are crashing. I think you could look at different asset classes. I think office could have some pain a little bit, depending on if you're downtown office or Class A office. I think people are downsizing office. I think if you own a space that's zoned for a restaurant, that could have some pain. I think retail, especially Class A retail, there could be some pain. But net as a whole, is the Denver market crashing? Definitely not. And we're mostly in residential here. And I think single family homes, like we talked about, migration, multifamily, with the jobs and migration, there's a lot of renters out there. We have a massive oversupply of people looking for apartments and an undersupply of apartments for them to rent, especially affordable apartments. So I just don't think the numbers, show that there could be or is going to be a crash in the residential space. I think there could be some pain if you own commercial retail, commercial office, especially Class A office. I just think those are, those could take 5 or 6 years to get back to where we were, 2019, 2020. But I just think there could be pain there. I don't know about a crash,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Actually, my office is in a 10-story office building in off Colorado Boulevard in the business district there, and the cars have not filled back up more than 50% of what they were pre-COVID.
Wow.
In that office building. And I mean, there's several hundred units in there. And
would you say that's a Class A or B office building? Class B.
Class B, yeah.
Is that around like Colorado and 25?
Yeah, Colorado and I-25 behind the Best Buy there.
Yep.
Yeah, right facing on the highway.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's we and I don't know if those are people that have just not renewed their leases or people that are still paying but not coming in because of fear of getting coming down with COVID. So. That's interesting to look at. I think office and retail, absolutely.
I can see some pain there, but definitely not residential. I mean, there's
residential. If you're the Class A downtown residential, they're feeling some pain.
Right.
There's high-end condos and a lot of those apartment buildings out there. I think
if you're downtown anything, you could be feeling pain right now.
Yeah, why do you live downtown? I want to walk to my restaurant. I want to walk to my coffee shop. Yeah. I want to walk to the gym. All these things are closed right now, right? Yeah. So nobody's renting those, but the people that are in them are already there, and nobody's buying those. But I think that's short term, medium term, right? You're gonna.
I think a couple years.
2021, 2022. You get past all this, it's gonna be out there. So if you're looking for something to buy and you think now might be a good time, buy something downtown and just understand it's probably gonna lose money, maybe break even, but you'll probably get a pop of 5, 10, 15% appreciation in 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. If you can get a deal downtown, most of those guys are institutional. So it'll be interesting to see how they behave.
I agree.
Those aren't like guys like us
that
actually have a budget.
So
those guys are getting money cheaper.
Absolutely. One thing that is really interesting about the multifamily and touched on this. So just doing market research in multifamily around the metro right now and in the last couple of months, TJ, me and you have talked about this offline, but I am starting to see, especially in areas like North Aurora, where there's kind of it's Class C neighborhood, Class C tenant base. We're seeing a ton of supply coming on the market in that area. And,
is that for the new builds or just
there's not a lot of new builds over there.
Other than
you can't really justify around Fitzsimmons. Yeah, you can't really justify the construction costs from a apartment standpoint in that area.
So what are you seeing over there? Because I like the area a lot. We buy a lot of like house hacks and single families over there. It's kind of like ride the growth wave. Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say in the last couple of months, I've probably seen, the floor for price per door go from like 130 to 120
for
multifamily. Okay. Yeah, 130,000 a door to 120,000 a door. We're starting to even have off-market conversations with sellers right now at 110 a door. Yeah. So very interesting to see because of that amount of supply, and even the sellers of these portfolios they're nervous. They're like, I see that on the market as well. I don't know why that's happening, but I'm willing to sell my, why it's happening. It's a Class C tenant and everybody's scared with the eviction moratorium and all that. So I think there will be pockets of distresses in like price reductions, but I don't think anybody's giving anything away.
I also think there's the psychological aspect of it is like if people are like, we've seen some portfolios come across our way, and Terrance has picked a few properties as well. You probably have as well. where they're like, hey, if I own it for 20 years, I just want to cash out, or they're like, oh my gosh, I'm worried, let me sell. I think there is some like panicking selling going on, or potential panicking going on.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple deals to be had there, but nothing significant.
I agree.
I think Aurora is kind of like New York right now, that like if you can take 2 years or 3 years of being patient,
Yeah.
I think Aurora is going to come back.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen it. You know, we've collected maybe 90%, I think 90% of rents since April for all of Denver, but Aurora is maybe like 82, 83, 84.
Okay.
So Aurora is a little bit lower. But I think that's just, you know, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I think if you can buy right and you're patient and you have a long-term horizon, I do think now is a good time to buy Aurora, because like you said, a lot of people that own there are pressing the sell button and the panic button, and they want out.
Yeah.
But you can get it at a good basis.
I have
Absolutely.
to disagree with your metaphor, or whatever it is there from. I mean, not quite like New York City. I mean, they're seeing like 30-40% rent drops over there.
Well, I'm just saying Aurora is the New York of Denver. If there was a suburb to buy, it
Do you
definitely
agree
be
with
Aurora.
that, Joe? I feel like I have to.
It's the only place where you can get a really
it-
a deep discount in Denver right now.
Yeah.
Everywhere else is doing fine. Aurora, I'm just telling you, like,
Yeah.
warm what I've seen.
And something else too. I mean, it is really interesting to see those prices go down, because, you know, alluding to the landlords in the office space and retail space, all of those guys are, you know, I see some distress there, and I see all of them moving into the multifamily asset class. That's so
Of office and retail. Yeah,
I
they're trying
see,
to get out.
office
Yeah,
and retail
institutional,
landlords like,
right.
okay, you know what, I'm gonna go into something a little bit more secure, and moving into the multifamily space, which was already completely saturated and in my opinion overvalued, is gonna get nothing but more overvalued and saturated in years to come. You know, I really feel like that.
I mean, I'm just speaking from data. The people that are not
I
paying the
guess- I'm
delinquent are in
saying- I'm saying
Aurora.
I disagree.
This is not
I'm
my
saying I disagree
opinion. I'm
with
not
your
emotional. I'm
metaphor,
just saying these are
like,
the
Aurora
numbers.
is not the New York
These are the
City.
numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not like emotional about it. These are the numbers.
That's a pretty
No,
big
I can't-
Yeah, it's like I think you. Okay, Joe.
I said it's the New York. We can rewind the tape. I said it's the New York of Denver. I think that's
Yeah.
the only distressed place to buy in Denver is Aurora.
I
That's
wouldn't exactly say that the Arapahoe Courthouse is exactly like the Empire State Building, but it's similar over there. It's similar.
your architecture is different. I'm saying the climate of sellers.
I think
Would be.
looking at the people, I don't want to say panicking, but the lower rent collections, people being a little bit more distressed. I would agree for our 7-county metro area, Aurora is certainly under the most pressure. As compared to, you look at the state of New York City is certainly under the most pressure. So I would agree with that analogy. Bit of a stretch, but I'm just
You're speaking of data.
I need
So,
to- I
you
need-
can get upset with me, but it's
No,
just
no, no, no.
Less than you today, TJ, bud. Yeah.
Terrance, this isn't bad. I need to drink more to get that right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's
Walker,
the answer. That's definitely the answer.
like 20 minutes ago,
Good
the question on
Instagram
Instagram.
question, yeah.
So
Is it a good question? Because we have questions up here.
I've got a few now. So
repeat
Going-
this when he says it, Terrance, because
yeah,
he's
so
not mic'd up.
going back to your marketing strategies, Carrie from Rent by DIY has asked if there's any tips on writing postcards or direct mails. She specifically asked for single family flips. Just anything you have on that.
Yeah, as far as like,
repeat that real fast into that, Walker.
Okay. So we've got a question on Instagram. Carrie from Rent by DIY asked if there's any tips on what to write on postcards for direct mailing, and she specifically asked for single family flips. But
yeah. So I mean, I get a ton of these, and we're always analyzing and looking what works and doesn't work. And I honestly, this is one thing that I try not to get too hung up on is the messaging. As long as your messaging is, hey, we want to purchase your property, and we want to do it no nonsense at the least amount of stress as possible for the highest dollar amount. As long as you can get that messaging across, it doesn't really matter how you do it. And I think it's a matter of quantity. It's how many contacts can you reach as opposed to how you reach them, because they're getting bombarded by mail constantly every day. Every seller has 10, 20, 15 mailers that they're receiving every couple of months. So you're getting thrown into a stack. You really have to just pick up your volume considerably, especially in the single family realm. You just have to pick up your volume considerably. I mean, even if you do one deal out of 10,000 flyers, you'll be able to get a return to justify doing that twice and beefing it up. So I would just say get get as big as possible. Don't get too hung up on the messaging.
What about volume versus consistency versus messaging?
Yeah, so I mean, again, you just want to make those contacts as consistent as possible.
So would you take consistency over volume?
Yeah. Well, I'd say those go hand in hand. I mean, you want to constantly be marketing to as many people as possible. If you send out one flyer to 100,000 people, I think you'll get more if you send 10 flyers 10,000 times.
Yeah, let me repeat this, because I always, this is always like a great marketing question. Hey, you can afford 100,000 flyers.
Yeah.
You send out one flyer to 100,000 people, or 10 flyers to 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So volume versus consistency.
I just misspoke. I'm sorry. I would send out 10 flyers 10,000 times.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 10,000 people as opposed to 100,000 times. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, I would break it up, and I would just start staying in front of people, because the likelihood that somebody's going to be willing to sell that day is going to be very, very small. Yeah. But if you can straddle somebody, or you can get them when they've been on the 3 months before, the 3 months, considering if you're within that quarter range of them thinking about selling, and you hit them on the front end of it, and then you hit them on the back end of it, you've got a very high chance of success.
So is your frequency like quarterly, or
we're experimenting with that right now. Okay. And that's a lot of where we actually we're definitely looking at quarterly at minimum. Okay. Quarterly at minimum. So
the fortune is truly in the follow-up. You guys have heard that sales before, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have deals, especially on the development side, where I've spoken with people and talked to them, stayed in contact for years. 5-6 years before we get a deal out of it. Obviously, the price keeps changing dramatically over 5 or 6 years. But
let's talk about this, because this is something that Terrance and I often like. I feel like we're a broken record on. It's just like, to boil it down, you're persistent. And actually, I'll say it sounds like you're pleasantly persistent, and you're patient. And I feel like that's something that is so overlooked in, like, you read the headlines, various real estate investing websites. It's all about going, zero to rich in such a short time frame.
Yeah.
But you're really talking about just being patient and persistent. Can you talk about it? Because I get contacted by, I know Terrance does as well, a lot of newer, younger people want to get into real estate. And it's like, just chill out. You gotta play the long game. Can you kind of talk about your evolution there and give some people some wisdom on there, since you're over 30 now at least, right?
Over 30, I'm 34.
Okay. So 34. You got some wisdom now. Yeah,
no, thank you. I appreciate that. So, basically, my first experience, especially with mailers, is, I didn't get any results until my six month period. So you want to stay consistent and be in front of people as much as possible. But I would say there's always this ebb and flow to real estate, where you're gonna get these peaks and valleys, and that is just something that is absolute in real estate. And so just be patient through those peaks and valleys. And when things are really, really good, know that you've got to invest and put money back into the business. Like, it's really important to funnel and keep your marketing going. And for when things get bad, because things will get bad. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing,
Right. So how do you,
and I think it's more resistance. I think it's more of a struggle than it is good times, honestly, which I enjoy the struggle. So it's all good to me. Yeah. But, real estate is, pushing boulders up the mountains. Like, it's a tough industry because it's very saturated. So be patient and learn to love the process.
So without going to specific numbers, but it's always an interesting thing. Myself and the comments always expect the recession's 2 or 3 years away, as the comments feel. COVID obviously caught everyone by surprise. So are you doubling down your marketing? Are you upping your cash reserves? What's your strategy to, obviously get through this turbulent times, but also hey, there are some opportunities as well. What's your high level strategy on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have sold out of some really choice assets in the last year. And I've been more cash heavy.
Is that for opportunity, or just to be conservative?
It's to be a little bit conservative, but also knowing that I kind of want to change the direction that I'm going and just work on more of a volume based model. And so I'd like to get more cash heavy to be able to do that. And just I think that there's going to be opportunity in the market no matter what. But right now, for instance, would be a great time. We have an election coming up in 30 days. It would be a great time to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to sit on my hands for the next 30 days and not do anything. And, so mixed with, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's going into the fourth quarter of real estate, which notoriously is slow, in real estate. Mm-hmm. And then, just mixing all those things together, and then the election year coming up, in 30 days. So I think that it's a good time to be bullish right now. We're going after deals super hard because a lot of people are sitting on their hands right now. So, I mean, we're going for broke. I mean, I'm making as many contacts as possible. We're ramping up marketing. We're doing new hires. We're getting very, very bullish right now.
I love it.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
I could not agree more with right now. We have a 37-day opportunity. It's 37 days until the election. Guess what everyone is doing? Watching the TV that says the world is going to end.
Well, tonight is the debate.
Yeah, tonight is the first debate.
That's not like positive.
I can't wait for
news.
that, by the way.
Everybody, all we're doing is watching these horrible news headlines that say the world is going to end, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking about selling my home, the only reason I'm going to sell my home is if I absolutely have to, right? Now, what's going to happen immediately following the debate? 50% of, or not the debate, the election, 50% of people are going to be thrilled. 50% of people are going to be uber upset, right? Who's going to list their home? The 50% of people that are uber upset, that are moving to wherever it is they're moving.
Yeah, who's moving to Canada after this election?
Right. So from right now until January, 23rd or whenever the inauguration is, you have a huge opportunity as an investor to buy properties while sellers are scared, panicked, and irrational. And that is a great time to take advantage of the market. And I don't believe in timing 100%. The market, except for once every 4 years, we get like a 90-day opportunity. Yeah. We are right in the middle of it right now.
Absolutely. 100%, Joe. Yep.
Well said, Joey. Well said.
Yeah.
P.S. Interest rates are super low. Call me.
Call Joe. Okay, let's talk about failures here, because I know you and I have discussed this. I think it's a great topic. It's painful, but I think there's a lot of value in it for the audience. So tell us about the best failure you've had that's led you to where you're at, that you would say this is what made me.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm just coming off of a failure right now. Actually, my biggest failure to date. The only time, which is really funny to note, I've been doing real estate for 12, 13 years now, and I haven't lost in real estate. The moment that I chose to look
hold on, say that again.
For 12, 13 years, I've not lost in real estate. I have not.
When you were doing your strategy, executing your business plan, sticking to what you know.
Absolutely. Yep.
You did not lose.
I did not lose. And I mean, not even my worst case scenario would maybe be I broke even, and that was in a bad business partnership when I was super young on my first fix and flip. I think I still made money on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my worst situations in real estate are still better than 90% of other businesses that I've seen. So, my wife and I decided, my wife is very much into fitness. And so we decided to purchase a franchise that was aimed around fitness. And so it was a boutique fitness studio. And we purchased it, and I looked at it from a standpoint of, let me diversify. Cause I always hear, hey, diversify your investments. And so I was like, okay, well, this is something that could maybe bring in, passive income of $100,000 a year. Cause it had this real absentee model to it. Well, come to find out, there's absolutely nothing absentee about this in the slightest. And it's starting a whole new business. And I mean, the marketing in itself, I mean, we were paying, we were doing, it was $35,000 a month just to keep the doors open.
What?
That was your overhead?
Yeah, that was my overhead.
For what did that include?
We had we had 12 employees. We had Class A suite down in the Landmark. All the equipment. Build out was insane. But it was just, and then marketing. So, I mean, we just had a lot of that went to people. Overhead. A lot of that went to the people. Yeah. And employees. And so we were, and I mean, our top month, I think we brought in $18,000.
And you're spending 35?
And we were spending 35. And most of those months I was coming out of pocket. I mean, we were bringing in on average like $6-7 a month. And I'm just like, okay.
So was this the COVID anything to do with this, or is this already the numbers before pre-COVID? Yeah.
So a couple of weeks before COVID, I made the determination. I said, you know what? I'm out.
This was like January, February?
This was actually in March.
Okay. So
this
might
have even been like a week before COVID.
Okay.
I just made the decision. I said, you know what? I've invested so much capital into this.
How many months did it go on like that? You were negative, spending 35 in overhead and bringing in 18?
7.
7 months of
7
negative
months.
cash flow.
Yeah, 7. Well, but then throughout the build out, I mean, it was a 2-year process from beginning to end. And throughout the build out, I mean, we were just constantly funneling money in, and it's like, my expectation was I'll get this SBA loan, and then, I'll be maximum out of pocket $100,000. Everything will be fine. My worst case scenario, I'm at $100,000. And it's like, well,
what
if
happened?
you fast forward, well, the SBA lender is really strict. I mean, those loans are tough as nails to get through. And they were like, well, you need this much more money down. I was like, okay. So long story short, I was, or you fast forward 2 years and I lost $800K.
Wow.
800 on that. And then,
so what happened in March then?
Oh, so I made the determination when we just kept bleeding money. I said, this is, I'm on my way out. I said, I'm not going to do this any longer. I need to start negotiating with the landlord right now and just say, hey, we need to find somebody to step in and take this over. And I'm willing to give it away. This 800 in equity that I'm in right now, I'm walking away from it. Like, I'll just give it away.
So that's probably a good call, especially with COVID coming on the scene, where
kind of, but I didn't have a buyer in place. And then COVID, I had the conversation with my landlord. COVID happened. I said, definitively, I'm done. I don't care what happens. And the landlord even was willing to give me some really good concessions to stick around. And I just said, I'm out. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be, but I said, whatever the outcome, I'm willing to face the music, and I'm done. So, so then I said, I had a 10.5-year lease, and I still had 10 of those years left.
Wow.
So I had to find somebody who would be an operator to take over that space. And the franchisor that I was with, they ended up finding somebody, and then I pretty much just gave the business away.
You got nothing.
I got nothing.
So
I think I had to bring $15,000 to closing.
You did?
So, yeah.
that was for the whole business transaction?
Just to get it done, just to settle up get the new buyer, the warm and fuzzy, and I just walked away from it. So I probably could have got a little bit more if I was patient with it, but I wasn't patient, and I just didn't care. And it was taking so much time away from me in real estate and my business partner. I just said, what, the relationships in real estate that I have and my business partner are way more important to me than if I can get a couple extra bucks over here. I'll walk away from it all.
So anybody else having an anxiety attack right now?
Yeah.
But what I took away from that is exactly what you said right there at the end. I know you have questions. The $15,000, I could have been patient. I could have squeezed every nickel out of this, that. But what was it taking away from your primary business?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So if I can write a check for $15,000 to be done with this today and not have to drag this out for another 90, 120, 180 days,
absolutely,
can I be done and get back to my core focus?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very smart.
And since that happened, that was in mid-July. And I mean, I was kind of splitting my time between real estate and that business for a year and a half before that. And since July, I mean, me and my business partner have just been on an absolute tear.
Wow,
That's
amazing.
We have just been on a tear.
You're focused.
Yeah.
You're engaged.
Yep. We're working together. And I mean, I thought I was working together with them. I thought we were building.
You didn't realize you were
extra
absent.
baggage.
I was way more absent.
You were absent and didn't even know it.
Yep,
That mental, attention units, or just that mental, you got 100 units for your mental space. So much is going towards this. There's that huge opportunity cost on there. It doesn't show up on your spreadsheet, Joe, when we analyze properties, but there's that. I don't know how to quantify it.
Yeah.
But how can you elaborate on I think economic terms it's called a sunk cost. Hey, you've already invested, a large, multiple six-figure dollar into there. What was a tipping point for you? So you know what? We just need to write this off and move on.
How did you know?
Can you walk through that mental process?
Yeah. So once that happened, that tipping point for me, it wasn't the money the money sucked, right? I'm selling assets.
Yeah.
I'm coming up with money, and I'm doing uncomfortable things. I don't want to sell rental property. I don't want to sell deals to put them into a business that I don't really believe in.
Right.
So that's very uncomfortable for me. That was kind of a big red flag. But really what it came down to is when COVID happened, or before that, I said, okay, well, it was my time. It was my evaluation of time.
Right.
I need to give this at least another 2 years. And I didn't even think about the money. I said, okay, the money is, I'll come up with the money, but it's got to be 2 years before I could even get to break even.
Right.
And then it's and then how long after that before I get profitable or just pay myself back? I'm looking at another 10 years just to get myself back what I had invested if I'm going off of the pro forma. So I said, okay, it's the time that I need. It's not the money. I'll make money in other places. I'm not going to give this business my time.
Right.
You know, and that's, and I had a lot of aha moments around that with real estate too. You cannot really lose in real estate. You really can't. I mean, if you're buying and doing what you need to do, and even if you hit hard times, don't sell. Do everything you can not to sell. You know, flip that property and you know, value add it somewhere, or do a house hack. You can rent it, you can flip it, hold it, do something to not sell it, or to create a value add, and you won't lose. You just can't, you know, it's very, very hard to lose in real estate.
Let me ask you this, Brandon. So this is one of my favorite questions. I always love like learning from people.
Mm-hmm.
So you're 34 now. You got started in real estate, you know, 14 years ago when you were 20 years old.
Yeah.
And you've had, you know, great success in real estate. You took a black eye on the fitness business.
Yeah.
But like looking back, like if you have the knowledge you know now at 34 years old, Brandon, what would you tell 20-year-old Brandon? Just everything you know.
That's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would say, I would say do everything exactly like you did it. I would really go hard and experiment. I'm actually so glad that I took that loss that I did recently, because I know that diversifying, you know, myself has always, but it's always been this, like, it is. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I feel like I've always been tempted by it though. I've always been like, oh, I need to diversify. So it's like, I'm so glad that I took $1 million loss this year than if I were to, you know, take a $10 million loss in 5 years, you know? And so, and I knew at some point I would do that. So I would say, you know, be as experimental as possible. 20-year-old Brandon, do everything that you did and more, and take losses, take L's. There's a book by John Maxwell, Fail Forward. You know, I mean, that's, you want to do that.
I haven't read that book, but I totally love that quote. That's like one of my life mottos is fail forward.
Fail forward. Yeah. Hey, truth be told, I haven't read the book either. I just keep it because I like that title so much.
Either.
Yeah. I just gave him a
Actually, I haven't read it either, but I look at it.
I love the
I
title.
saw it at Barnes and Noble.
I need you to read it when you believe
I look at it. I just get the message.
Yeah.
Through osmosis. What else do you want to share? This?
I just realized we're going for a good hour here. So
we're like way over time.
Oh, but we're drinking. I'm taking notes here, so I love this. So like just to like keep talking. Actually, let me ask you this here, because I look at my notes here. So you're obviously expanding, and from my interpretation, you're doubling down. You're definitely in like, hey, you have that long-term aspect.
Yeah.
And you're willing to take a couple speed bumps along the way over the next year or so as COVID finally works itself out. Like, what are you looking for? Like, who do you want to network out here in Denver or nationally? Like, hey, we got good reach on the podcast. Like, what are you looking for? What's your next evolution, your business growth? Like, who are you looking to connect with?
Yeah. Thanks so much for asking that. You know, typically, you know, like I said, we are a marketing company, but we also do a lot of our own deals too. So the deals that we come across that we don't really have the bandwidth for, or that we just don't have an appetite for, then we will send those out. So if there is anybody that's looking for a single family, multifamily, or land deals, please feel free to reach out, because that is something that, you know, we have, you know, typically a lot of deals and things to choose from. So, you know, that's an option. Also, too, you know, I'm really in a capital race phase right now. You asked the question a few minutes ago in regards to how we finance our deals.
Yes.
You know, I'm kind of you know, we're boring when it comes to financing deals. We just go to the bank, and then it's usually 25-30% down. It is, but it's also very cash intensive as well. Is to just keep going to the bank, and so. You know, what I'm working on now is, and I've talked to my banker about this in depth, is, you know, if we can create an equity partner, somebody who's willing to put up about $10 million then we go get the bank loan, and then we do like a 70-30, 30% comes from the equity, 70% comes from the bank. Obviously we give a preferred return to the equity investor, and then we do development deals like that. We're also,
so that's more of like you're looking for like one big.
I would
investor.
Exactly.
To
I would prefer a high net worth
money.
Individual. At least, like, you know, it's got to be in the 7 figures. You know, I'm not trying to really like do a bunch of crowdfunding or take like $50,000 pops from people and like manage all that. emotion and all that stuff. We're not looking to do that. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. But we are actually currently I'm working on a 30-unit shipping container model for aimed at multifamily.
You mentioned this before the hit live. Like, please talk about it because you piqued my interest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So basically, we're not in a housing crisis as far as pricing, because prices are more expensive than they've ever been, which actually is kind of a housing crisis because people can't afford to live.
Right.
And so it's not that prices are so cheap, and that's the crisis. The crisis is people can't get into a place. And so we're looking at alternative forms of construction and living that are lower cost, so that we can try to meet that demand. And we've set up a team right now, and we're looking at doing shipping containers aimed at Section 8 housing.
Wow.
Cool. Can you elaborate on that? Like, I mean, that's here in Denver. Can you just talk about it? Because Joe and I were fans of Section 8. I mean, we both own rentals at Section 8.
Yeah.
And just the whole shipping container, it's so interesting. Can you just give some details on that?
Yeah. So basically, the shipping containers are built in a warehouse. It's considered modular housing, and so that's where you get financing on it, is from the modular aspect. If you take a shipping container and then you go to a piece of property, go to a vacant piece of land, and you start assembling, you start furnishing and building out a shipping container on site, you can't ever get financing for it. So you have to build it in a warehouse, and that's where you're going to be able to get that modular classification.
Can I time out, please? Joe, I mean, this comes with the financing,
Joe,
because this is such a nuanced thing. Can you just talk about how that all works in the financing world?
Yeah, modular home.
Because you have experience in conventional and also commercial in your previous life.
Yeah. A modular home we treat as a stick-built home. So if it's built in a factory, so you guys have all seen these on the road, just like I am. It's built in a factory, and it is sitting on a trailer. You drive it to a property, you pick it up with a crane and set it down on a permanent foundation, and it is there. That is a stick-built home for our purposes. Now, a manufactured home, you build it in a factory. It is the trailer. You drive it to a place, you take the wheels off of it, and you put skirting around it. Even if it's attached permanently, that is a manufactured home. And they're financed differently, okay? Now, what you're describing, a shipping container home, is going to be something that's not built in a factory, right? Because it's assembled on site, and then you do the finishes inside the shipping container, I believe.
No, it's done in the factory.
Okay, so it is done in the factory.
Yeah, it's done in the factory, and then it's shipped to the location.
Great, so then it's shipped to the location. So we're going to treat that as modular, which is going to be just like a stick-built home. Your challenge is going to be on the appraisal. We have to find similar comparables that this is not the only. We don't want to finance a unique property.
Yeah,
I don't want to finance the only gigantic red property within a 300-mile radius.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if there's a bunch of these around and all of the other ones sell at this price range for this type of finishes, for this type of acreage, for this type of square footage, great. We'll do that. We don't have any issues. What we don't want is to be, there's exactly one shipping container home in Denver, and we're going to finance that. That's a huge problem. But if you've got a subdivision or a bunch of them, or we can find similar
something to
comps
comp for the appraisal,
we'll do that.
So that's the beauty of it.
So you can do conventional financing on this stuff.
Mm-hmm. If you have others,
just 25% down, assuming some good comps.
If he can get the appraisal.
If we can get the appraisal. Now, I'm not going to compare a shipping container.
Well, how much can we guarantee the appraisal?
Oh, 0.01.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have other shipping container comps, we'll do it, right? But if you've got one shipping container in, Berkeley, and there's other townhomes and these beautiful Victorian homes and all this, I don't have any comps for a shipping container. But if you've got other shipping containers and you can provide me comps or provide the appraiser comps, and we can justify, yes, there's an active market for
shipping container. So you need to sell
homes.
one, is that right?
So
sell a shipping container, and then you have a comp.
Right? But this is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
We never want to sell them. We'll never want to sell them.
You don't want to sell one to me and Joe, though?
Strictly a cash flow. Yeah.
So how are you going to get it financed, though? So you might need to sell one to get the finance, to get an appraisal, and then you can keep the rest.
It would be. Well, I'm working with my bank
local
right
bank
now.
might be different than trying to finance one unit with me.
Can you talk about the nuances there, Joe? Because this is such an important point between you as a conventional lender and like a local bank. Can you just touch on that?
Absolutely, yeah. Me as a conventional lender, I want to find 100 shipping container loans that I can package all together. Right? I'm looking for many loans that are all the same. I'm looking for a lot of people that have 740 credit score and above. I'm looking for a lot of people that have 720 to 740. I'm looking for a lot of people that have 680 to 700, because I want a big bulk of loans.
Right.
What the bank is looking for is for you to send them a check every single month,
go.
right? So they're looking for, hey, we're going to finance your shipping container, and you're going to make payments, and we're willing to take you and your shipping container and put you on our books. And we don't need 100 other of you. We need one of you. That's the difference between me and the bank. So you want to finance a shipping container loan? I can do that, but I need a lot of them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Like what's a lot of them? Is that like 100 or
no,
what's the?
I mean, in my world, like 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would be like the 5 county, 7 county metro area.
Yeah.
Would be okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking to securitize. We're looking to build a bulk of loans, not just one loan. And that's the difference between me and the local bank. The local bank will take one loan and they'll just keep it because they're not packaging it up with other loans.
Yeah.
So, but for
Yeah.
your purposes, what you're talking about, you're going to have a number of these, probably all on one legal description or 2 or 3 legal descriptions. You want to finance it, you're going to put down your 30, 35%, and then you're going to make your payment to the bank. Your tenants are going to make their payments to you, and you're going to keep the difference, and you don't really care.
Yeah.
You're not looking to sell it. You don't really care what the rate is. You don't care anything about the terms as long as the rent is this, your payment is this, and you keep the difference in between.
Absolutely.
Now is that just a pure long-term cash flow play for you, or
Yeah.
is that like a development play as well as an exit strategy?
Good question. I didn't want to release all the bags.
You don't have
tricks
to.
out.
So
No.
you can say you don't
Yeah. We crossed
Say
the
you're
line.
still thinking about
We crossed the line.
Okay,
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm just
get behind
joking.
your curtain.
I'm totally.
I don't know who you think you are.
Can I pour you some more whiskey?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do like that. We're land guys. We love land. We love development. So yeah, the long term is absolutely.
Well, what's your long term? Is that 10-year, 30-year, 50-year? Because like
10, 15.
if you
10,
look at
15.
I love you look at like our culture as Americans,
Mhm.
then compared to Japanese cultures, our long term is like quarter to quarter on Wall Street. Their long term is like 50 years.
Yeah.
And like
Right.
I always love them here. Like, what is your long? When you say long term, like what's your vision on there?
Yeah. 10 to 15 years.
Okay,
10 to 15 years.
which I would agree with is the long term.
Yeah. I mean, just to be able to, obviously we want to drive in cash flow. You can get these things built for about 20% less conventional construction. So you're able to create a decent spread for cash flow.
So
You can actually cash flow, as opposed to deals where you're like putting together. I mean, the margins are so thin, you just can't really cash flow. So that's the multifamily aspect. Like I
You
mentioned
can
on
cash
the
flow
land,
Aurora right now, actually.
really,
If you buy it 110 a door.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So-
I mean, they're different models though. Like in the multifamily, absolutely, I'm looking for something that's beefier and can cash flow. Shipping containers is an avenue. Don't know if it's like going to be the holy grail, but we're working through our first 30 unit right now.
can you just pay? Are these like 30 shipping containers like just stacked up vertically like Tetris, or like what? Like just can you just paint me a picture? Because I'm still curious. Are these like 3 shipping containers like doors cut between, so they're double wides? Like just walk me through. I'm so intrigued by this.
Yeah. So basically, it's first floor. It's going to be a podium style. So you have second, third, and fourth stories of living, and then you're going to have first floor of all parking. Then you're going to have
The parking lot
steel.
should be in shipping containers.
No, the parking's going to be on the first level, and then the
So
building.
podium. So you're going
and
to
then-
park under, and then you
But
got
this is a
over.
concrete structure.
Yeah, concrete structure. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like a
First floor.
concrete like first ground parking structure.
Yeah.
Shipping containers on top of the concrete
Yeah.
first floor level.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then they're stacked 2 and 3 high.
And these are all
And
just
then-
is it
2
like
and 3 high and 2 and 3 wide, and so you can we're looking right now at doing studios, 1 beds and 2 beds. Studios ranging around 300 and some square feet. 1 bed's 480, 2 beds 640. You have to operate within a 20 by 8 foot section because that's what a shipping container is.
so I total side note, Terrance, we gotta do like our ride along show on one of these
We
units.
should totally go walk through one of these.
Yes.
things. Yeah.
Walker.
Oh, he's trying to build it right now.
I'm trying to build one. Hopefully second quarter of next year. We're getting it designed right now. We're just we're going through site selection.
You have the land right now?
So we just had a parcel that we were really going after.
What part
hard,
of
but
town?
No.
Can you share,
we
or is
wanna
that
be
like
in-
secret sauce?
Denver. It's just going to be in Denver.
Like
Urban-
Denver
urban-
County?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to
Really?
be in Denver proper. Yeah, we're not going outside of Denver right
in the
now.
United States. That's all you need to do.
Joe, Joe, you are cut off. You are cut off,
Right.
buddy.
Yeah.
He's not invited to the walk.
United States of America.
So, but what's really interesting, and this is something that I'm really kind of keeping my pulse on, that I don't feel like a lot of people are keeping their pulse on. Modular housing for rental aspect. I think any kind of prefab or modular housing, I think people should just be looking at that in general, for housing or for rental properties. Even these like tiny houses and things that have been coming out, because there's been a lot of people who are actually making some pretty good income off this stuff. But the future is I don't know if you've heard of a company called Icon, where they print houses. It's 3D printing of houses. And then there's another company called Autovol. So I mean, and they have just a 400,000 square foot.
Like they are legitimately printing.
It's concrete.
Trailers or houses,
they're printing
or what?
houses, like custom homes, like 2,500 square foot, no basement, just like
What?
slab on grade, and then they just print your house out of concrete, and it can be printed in less than a day, and less than $5,000, a full single family house. Now there's a big pushback from this though, because there's no rebar. There's no rebar.
Right.
So,
how
so-
sturdy is it?
Exactly.
Right.
And it's like, what's the financing look like on that? If
I'm not
don't put
financing a
rebar?
house that's gonna blow over.
Well, it's concrete though. It's concrete, and so it's like, well, okay, well, if you build it in a day for less than $5,000, could you just rebuild it in?
Right.
in-
Actually,
in
let's not
7,
even give
8
you
years?
financing.
Yeah,
Just pay the
yeah,
$5,000.
yeah, right.
Hey, Brandon, can I get my credit card right
Visa,
now?
Visa,
Right.
MasterCard.
Yeah,
So I'm sorry. I want to interject here because I know, Terrance, you've done a really interesting deal in Swansea for the Opportunity Zone where you've dropped 2 prefab duplexes. I want to talk about that. And then Joe just financing on this stuff. Like, I mean, this is very interesting to me. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We've done modular. I think we've talked about this. We had a project built that was 2 duplexes.
Okay.
And it was built in a factory. We did it for like 90 a square foot. You still had to pay for the foundation. Obviously, you had to pay for the land. I think all in were maybe $150 a square foot.
okay.
But it was duplexes, so 4 units.
Yeah.
And they were 1,500 square feet up, 700 square feet down,
What
for
were
the
you-
basement.
And where we renting them out for roughly?
We got 25 for upstairs, and the basement will get like 12.
you're getting that much over there?
You're crushing it.
37?
You're absolutely
Yeah, no,
crushing
it's-
that deal.
Yeah, no, it was solid. So it was, this was Opportunity Zone. This is back when 2017 we were looking to buy land, and we looked at building it, and it was just so expensive. I mean, I think we were getting quoted $225, and I was just like, man, that's ridiculous. So then we found a modular builder.
What was your
And it was
cost
like
for that? Shipped in
90. It was like 90 something a square foot, but there's some other costs because when it arrives on site, you have to assemble it. So there's some cost to that. There's some drywall repair.
Yep.
There's some venting, right? Because they're bringing it in boxes. So the venting for the HVAC. There are some things. I mean, net, it was really good. Obviously, we learned a lot, and there's some things that going back to the design phase. And
Would you do it again?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, it was great. I mean, it was phenomenal. For the product's phenomenal. I mean, if you walk in there, it's like your family, my family would want to live in there. I mean,
Right.
it's like really nice flooring, granite, backsplash.
Oh, I'm good.
Really nice bathrooms.
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, everything's legit. I mean, it's super high grade finishes.
No.
They just
Right.
built it in a
Excellent.
factory in Nebraska. We actually went to the factory, wanted to see how they did it all. I mean, I actually think the quality might be better because you have people that they're focused. They're just on that site
I agree.
all
man.
day.
I
No
agree.
distractions, no weather elements. They have someone watching over them full time with cameras and then in person. So I actually think you get a better product. It's faster. It's cheaper. We got financing from First Bank, so it's pretty easy. But I mean, there's definitely some nuances, and you have to. I mean, we would definitely do a better job next time, just because we learned some things on the delivery, on the assembly, on the assemblage of it once they get it on site. But no,
Nice.
it was a great experience, and yeah, they rent it out quick. I mean, the feedback when people walk in is like phenomenal. They had no idea that it was built in a factory. You can't really tell if it's done right.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And
Right.
I think that's the wave of the future.
I agree. It is the wave of the future for sure. So much cheaper. It's more efficient. Yeah.
Do
No, they're doing that. They're doing build to rent in like the Southeast. It's just harder in Denver because we're landlocked. But in the
Yeah.
Southeast, in the Midwest, they're doing a ton of build to rent.
right.
And they're coming in just doing 200 lots. And I think Lennar is actually doing their first build to rent community
Oh wow.
in Chicago, right outside Chicagoland.
Okay.
They're doing like 200 or 300 units, single family, like townhome style, and they're building them for maybe $150. I mean, so this is definitely the wave. I mean, it's definitely going to happen. I just don't know how that intersects with Denver. where it's just so much harder to build, so much more expensive to get the land and the rents. Because at a certain point, you have a brand new house and people can only pay so much in rent, but you paid so much for the land. I don't know that there can be communities unless you go out to Longmont or Erie.
Or go east, right?
Or go east or go south.
And I think there's a sweet spot right now where if you're doing prefab, you're going to be able to get the cost down and you're going to be able to demand the same rental price.
Right.
But I feel like if it becomes an abundance, then we're going to see rental prices come down.
Right.
And we're not going to be able to demand, such a high price for rent, in my opinion. But then you got other things to factor in with like inflation and all that's going on right now, which is a whole nother podcast.
So I actually have a call I have to get on in 5 minutes. So I have to excuse myself here.
Well, we will wrap up here.
This is phenomenal.
60 minutes. This is great. I think we'll end with...
This is just like a real happy hour.
This
I'm going to have one and be home in 15 minutes.
Wait,
well, I can tell you, my plan was
15 hours later, you show up with like a cheetah. You're like, hi.
So my plan was, I'll have one dream drive home. I'm Ubering home right now. So I hope you
I have
guys...
to Uber back to my
So he's ready to keep going. He's Ubering. So I actually still have to work.
Yeah, so cheers. Brandon, thank you, sir.
Cheers. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Great
to see you, brother.
You too, brother. Absolutely.
So Brandon, dude, it was a pleasure having you on. I think you're super talented. I've always admired you.
Yeah.
The one thing that stuck out the first time we met is you were talking about land as a chessboard. I don't know if you remember this. And you were talking about CMX, commercial mixed use, and you were like, this is the queen on the chessboard, this is this. And I just love how
I love that now.
The one thing that I relate with you is that neither of us are institutional. I think we both come from really low income families and we don't wear suits.
Yeah.
We don't really, we're not stuffy.
Absolutely.
And I think you've been able to hack together a phenomenal business. I really respect it.
Thank you.
And you don't have to have a Harvard education, a college education, you can have a checkered past, and you can go out there and do whatever you want. And that's one of the things I really respect. And I'm super, excited for this podcast, this episode to get out there, because I think you're exactly what my message is. Anybody can do it.
Thank you so much.
It's persistence, it's perseverance, it's hard work, it's just hustle.
It's hustle.
It doesn't matter what your last name is, where you're from.
Absolutely,
you can
100%.
do it,
I never got out of 10th grade.
Repeat that, the hustle and grind. Like repeat your story. Like that's the money bullet point right there in my mind.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to literally repeat it?
I literally
I mean, how far back? Yeah, I mean, no, and I appreciate that, TJ. And I feel like throughout my life, I've always kind of been that underdog, like I said in the beginning, and I've always just taken the hard road.
Right.
And I wasn't always given the hard road. At times, I just took the hard road.
Right.
And like I said earlier, I never got out of high school at the 10th grade. And so I had to figure things out. And I moved out of my house when I was 16, and I had to figure life out. And it took a couple of years for me to come across real estate. But when I did, I was like, okay, this is my vehicle.
What was the tipping point for you on like what put real estate on your radar?
It was actually a friend of mine that just kept pushing me into real estate.
It wasn't Rich Dad Poor Dad?
No. I was actually just, I was always in sales. And so one of my friends was just like, hey, man, you're really good at this. You should really look at doing real estate. And he pushed me for a year or so. And I wouldn't give him the time of day. And then we both went to take our real estate license or initial test at the same time. And I got in, and I was like, oh.
She should have been the investment at your wedding, it sounds like.
I know, right? Yeah, he's a very good friend. We're still friends. Right. Yeah.
No, that was me.
All right, so I know we got to wrap up here. Terrance has to run. We're over a time we allotted.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
What's a great way for people to reach out to you? We'll obviously put your website, social media, and contact details here in the show notes. But what are you looking for?
How do people contact you?
Yeah. All right, here's the direct line, guys. 720-290-6352.
Just hit him up. Radio voice.
Yeah.
Just hit him
Repeat that.
720-290-6352 if you want to talk to Brandon.
Oh, yeah, that's
24 hours a day, 365 days.
So 3 a.m. is a perfect time to call you, right?
Absolutely.
He dreams about real estate. He'll perk right up.
I have no commitments or responsibilities, guys. Yeah, get in touch with me any way you can. No, but email's a good one, Brandon@urbanlandbuyer.com. And our website is urbanlandbuyer.com. So feel free to message me, talk to me. And honestly, I just love to talk shop. If anybody even has any questions, I see that there's questions and things over here that we didn't address. So, I'm an open book, I love talking real estate and seeing people grow and expand and just being progressive in life. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, you're the
Thanks
man.
for joining us,
Thank you,
brother.
guys.
Great.
Brandon,
Crushed it.
thank you.
Thank you.
And listeners out there, give us feedback. Obviously, reach out to Brandon. Like lots of great content out here. So thank you. Give us feedback, and we'll do more of these. And Brandon, you'll definitely be on our annual list, if not sooner list as well.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you so much.
All
My
right.
pleasure.
Well, cheers, everyone.
That was great.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
All right.